Michael, a hard-working man, is rushing to an important meeting at his job in a large oil company. As he walks down a busy street, he sees an elderly man suddenly collapse in the middle of the sidewalk. Without hesitation, Michael stops to help the man, even though he's running late. Michael calls for an ambulance, staying with the elderly man until help arrives. Though he knows the meeting could impact his future at the company, he chooses to prioritize the man's life. As a result, Michael misses the critical meeting and soon receives the devastating news that he's been fired. Michael returns home, burdened by the fear of telling his wife Emily and their children. He decides to keep the news of his job loss a secret, not wanting to worry his family. To provide for them, he finds a temporary job at a local restaurant, though the pay is meager. Every day after work, Michael visits the elderly man in the hospital to check on his recovery. After some time, the man wakes up and introduces himself as Martin, expressing gratitude for Michael's help. They begin talking, and Martin shares stories of his past, including a deep sadness that weighs on him. Martin reveals that he lost his wife and children in a tragic plane crash many years ago. Since their deaths, he has lived alone, indifferent to the world around him. Touched by Martin's story, Michael continues to visit him regularly, growing closer to him. Despite earning a small wage at the restaurant, Michael uses part of his savings to help Martin. He brings medicine and small gifts to the hospital, even while struggling to support his own family. Their bond strengthens, and Michael finds solace in their growing friendship during his difficult time. When Martin is discharged from the hospital, he has no home or family to return to. Seeing no other option, Michael invites Martin to stay at his house for a while. Though Michael's own resources are stretched thin, he feels he cannot abandon his new friend. One evening, Emily discovers that Michael has been hiding the truth about losing his job. Furious, she confronts him, accusing him of sacrificing their family's future for a stranger. She tells him they can barely afford the kids' school fees and the mortgage payments with his new job. Michael doesn't respond to Emily's anger, choosing instead to quietly leave the room. He goes to sit alone in the garden, reflecting on the difficult situation he's found himself in. Martin, having overheard the argument, approaches Michael to offer comfort and encouragement. Sitting beside Michael, Martin tells him not to be disheartened and that everything will be all right. Michael smiles faintly, telling him that he trusts in a higher power to guide them through this. Despite his reassurance, Michael still feels the heavy burden of his responsibilities. The next day, Martin speaks with Emily while Michael is away at his restaurant job. He learns from her about Michael's previous position at a major oil company and the good salary he once earned. Emily explains that Michael was fired for missing an important meeting, a sacrifice she's struggling to understand. Realizing the extent of Michael's sacrifice, Martin decides he must repay him in some way. He leaves a note for Michael, thanking him for all his kindness and promising that he will return home soon. When Michael returns and sees the note, he is saddened to find that Martin has left. A few days later, Michael receives an unexpected phone call from the director of his old company. The director asks Michael to come in for a meeting, saying the owner of the company wants to speak with him. Michael is confused but agrees to meet, hoping for some sort of explanation. When Michael arrives at the office, he is led to an opulent, luxurious room filled with expensive furniture. To his surprise, he sees Martin sitting behind the large desk, dressed in an elegant suit. Shocked and confused, Michael asks Martin what he's doing in the office of the company's owner. Martin smiles and reveals the truth: he is, in fact, the owner of the entire oil company. He explains that after his family's death, he withdrew from the business world and left his wealth behind.